premarital affair or is having a very important extramarital affair who doesn't tell me that by the way she sits down in the chair. He covered the whole range of patients. I mean, he was as comfortable with a raving psychotic as he was with a little kid that he was playing jacks with or an adolescent that he was talking with. He had a tremendous range.
I needed to study for my master's degree. I'm a physical education teacher. And I kept asking Dr. Erickson, when are you going to prepare me for this burden over my head, which is the passing of my master's degree? And so I studied very diligently at home from June until whenever, it almost seemed like 9 months I kept studying. And I kept saying, well, aren't you going to tell me something so that I'm going to feel like I'm going to pass? And he just kept going on and talking in his usual nice manner to me. He would tell me stories. I would just simply relax in front of him, and I didn't know it was, hypnosis back then. Just said, well, I'm listening to Dr. E. I'm listening to my father-in-law. He'd start out by saying, I had a patient who, and then before I knew it, oh, it's time to leave.
So I told her, go into a trance, and now forget about your master's examination. Now someday in the future, you'll wander into a certain room at Arizona State University, and you see some mimeograph questions and some blue books. You won't pay any attention to anybody else in the room. You'll wander over and pick up a mimeograph sheet of questions, a blue book, and find a comfortable seat, pay no attention to anybody else, and have a nice time daydreaming about your vacation trip. But now and then you can notice your hand is in writing, and you're not really interested in that.
I kept writing and writing. In fact, I was so shocked for the 4 hours. I never took a break. And I raised my hand and said, may I have some more paper? And so for somebody who never wrote anything, I would call that profuse writing. And so actually I had been prepared, but didn't know that I had been prepared.
She came home that day from university, not remembering that she had been there. Now 2 weeks later, he was taking over the mail. She told her husband, Robert, there's something awfully wrong here. A letter from the registrar saying I passed my master's examination and I haven't taken it yet.
The therapy session that Milton did with Mondi on the videotape was as typical of him in his later years as anything that he did.
Well, Manning, this time, I'd like to have you take your time about going into a trance. I don't want you to go into a trance too soon. And you know how easy it is for you. Not quite that fast, Manning. You hear my voice. And now come to your mind some very nice, happy experience out of your childhood. And I dare you to describe it.
Splashing in the water.
Splashing in the water?
A lake.
Tell me more about it.
I'm doing so with total abandonment. I'm about 2 years old.
You're 2 years old? I was 2-year-old Mondi having a very good time. And memorize all those good feelings. Because there's a lot morning.
He knew I was emotionally very disturbed at that period too. So he saw me very frequently. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 times a week at first. And he told me the first day, he said, I will treat you without charge, but if you stay with it, he said, if you leave, why then I'll have to charge you. I was very glad to have the help. He would tell you a story. It was kind of like Jesus and his parables, I guess. He would illustrate everything with a little story. And you'd get the point, you know. You'd understand exactly what he was saying. He helped with my femininity, so to speak. One time told me this story about, well, can a female pigeon looking in the mirror see her attractiveness to male pigeons? But it was right after that my husband had the accident. He was working as a carpenter, and the accident occurred because he was having to manage a saw on a big construction outfit, and then he got his hand in the saw and lost 3 fingers. When he was taken to the hospital, Dr. Erickson wanted me to call him. So when I called him, he said, tell him, just as he's coming out of the anesthetic, that I promise him he'll go right on doing his sculpture and his painting. And that was what I told him then, just as he was coming out. He began to sob, and he said, no more painting, no more sculpture. And I said, Dr. Erickson promises you'll keep right on. And then he went back to sleep. He got in jobs with other doctors that he could do some work for them and things while he was still just on